Good evening and welcome to War Thunder. We've got ourselves a new balance update coming up soon. Some new BR changes, and we'll kind of go through a quick rundown. Now, I do play realistic, so I'm going to go ahead and go through it on the realistic battles rather than go through it on all through arcade and simulator. And so the list, while it's fairly long, is much shorter for just the realistic battles changes. Biggest change in aircraft, they're going to 10.7, so they're bumping up the BR just a touch. Slight bit of decompression. We'll see if that can be extended in future BR updates. But let's go through things real fast and get it nailed down. All right, Marco Moraine from Sweden goes from 1.7 to 2.0. I have no insights on that one. P40C goes from 2.3 to 2.7. No real surprise. All the other P40s are about in that same range. So I expect that's a fairly normal change there. N1K1. This goes from 2.7 to 2.3. No surprise to me. The float planes don't tend to exactly be the most robust fighters out there. So no surprise. JU-87G2, this goes from 2.7 to 2.3, no surprise again. The attacker versions are much harder to use than the ones that can carry bombs. And this guy, even though the cannons can be effective, they got to be in just the right hands to do it. KI-45 High, going from 2.7 to 2.3, again, no surprise at all. The 37mm cannon is not particularly effective. It's only got 15 rounds and only 3mm of pin. It's not going to be going up against any tanks, so it's only good for hunting bombers, and to be honest, they're just not going to get in position to hunt most of the bombers. So the drop is no surprise. KI-109, 2.7 to 2.3. This one actually surprises me, but only a little bit. Reason being it does have a 75mm cannon, and at its BR, it is effective against the tanks that it faces. Therefore, I'm a little surprised, but not terribly so. It's a tough one to actually get lined up. Another one that surprises me, the KI-94-2, going up from 5.7 to 6.0. Having flown and spaded this airplane, while I enjoyed it, it was not particularly robust at the BR. The guns are great if you can get them on target. They are hard to... you have to get used to the drop. So I'm a little surprised that one went up. I-225 went from 5.7 to 5.3. I'm a little surprised that one went down, to be honest. But, they probably have statistics that indicate there's some issues there. I don't know. Never played it to speak of. F7F1 and F7F3 going from 6.3 to 6.7. I'm surprised. I mean, it's a heavy fighter, it's a large target, and it seems like it falls apart really easy. That said, it's a head-on monster. The BI is going from 6.7 to 6.3. No surprise to me. The 2 minutes of fuel have got to be absolutely wrecking this thing's abilities. I would not be surprised to see it drop as low as 5.7 to go along with the P59. Which I think is actually 5.3. I'll have to look that up later. But that's that one dropping is no surprise at all, and I expect it to go down again in the future. ME-262 A1AU1 goes from 7.0 to 7.3. This is the squadron vehicle. I've got one of my friends definitely enjoys using those cannons to take out tanks. And so it can be effective. I'm not so quite convinced it's a 7.3 capable jet. But then again, it was meeting 6.0s on a regular basis. So, yeah, it is what it is. The JA-29B Swedish tree goes from 8.0 to 7.7. No real feel for this one. I'm not necessarily surprised, just because it gets so difficult once you get above about 8.0 and get up tiered into the 9.0 ranges. It's a tough one. Okay. I have no feel for it. The MiG-15 goes from 8.7 to 8.3. No real surprise, but it's a really good aircraft. I wouldn't be surprised to see that one get bumped back up. Maybe some of the Russian players can give me better insights on that. Let me know in the comments. Q5 going from 10.0 to 9.7. Chinese jet. Not really surprised. I really don't think it's that good. I suspect it'll probably go down again in the future. MiG-21 F-13 goes from 10.0 to 9.7. I'm not really surprised because of the nature of the top-tier jets. I suspect it's just plain outclassed. F-104S goes from 10.0 to 10.3. Again, not surprised. It seems like that's going to be a rough spot right there, and I suspect that these planes, the F-104s, are going to be bobbing up and down just because of the lack of maneuverability. That said, they've got those air-to-air missiles, and, hey, most of them carry other ordnance as well. And now we go into the no surprise crew. F4c Phantom 2. Let's see, all of the following airplanes go from 10.3 to 10.7. F4c Phantom 2. F4e Phantom 2. F4EJ Phantom 2. Phantom FG Mark 1. Phantom FGR2. MiG-21 SMT. MiG-21 MF. Mirage 3C. And the J-35D Draken. All those go from 10.3 to 10.7. Now let's move on to ground vehicles. First up, the M42, both all in China, Japan, and US, is dropping from 6.0 to 5.7. I am absolutely not surprised. It's not particularly effective at 6.0. No more so than any others. The M19 going from 5.0 to 4.7. This makes a lot of sense. It actually gives the Americans a lineup that goes down that low, as opposed to just having to deal with a rank 2 M15. So, speaking of the M15, that's going from 2.7 to 2.3. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this actually drop lower. I believe the M16 is more effective. ZIS-43 is going from 4.0 to 3.7. Not terribly surprised. I am surprised, however, that there isn't another AA gun going in that. Well, okay, I guess there technically is. The ZSU-37 is going from 4.7 to 4.3. In Sweden, the Luftgerbel M40 is going down from 3.0 to 2.7. In France, the CCKW 353AA is going from 3.0 to 2.7. Again, these are no surprise to me. They're the lower fire rate AA guns are tending to go down. They've made a bunch of changes to how AA guns earn money, so it's not really surprised that they might be dropping a little bit in BR. Germany, SDKFC 62 going from 2.7 to 2.3. Sweden, the L62 Anti-2 is going from 3.7 to 3.3. The YAG-10 29K is going from 3.7 to 3.3. In Germany, the Ostwind 2 is dropping from 5.7 to 5.3. I'm surprised. It's been absurdly effective at 5.7, so that change doesn't really fly mentally for me. The Ostwind, on the other hand, goes from 4.7 to 4.3. To be honest, they probably ought to just reverse the Wirbelwind and the Ostwind. Flak Panzer 341 is going from 6.7 to 6.3. Not sure how I feel about that one. On the other end, we got the ZSD 63 in the Chinese line going from 4.0 to 4.3. Even with its low ammo count, I suspect it's really knocking the planes out of the sky. Also going up is the Falcon from 7.3 to 7.7. Again, zero surprise to me. That makes perfect sense. It's an effective AA gun, and the only reason it's going to be problem is because it's probably going to be up-tiered on a regular basis at 7.7. R3T20 FAHS going finally up from 3.7 to 4.0. It could probably go up even higher. AMX-13 Hot going from 8.7 to 8.3. Not really surprised. I think it's a little outclassed at 8.7. Raketen Jagdpanzer 2 Hot going from 8.7 to 8.3. Again, I suspect that one's just outclassed at that BR with the way the compression has worked out. Italian Sherman 5C going from 5.3 to 5.0. Not sure how I feel about that one, considering where most of the American gear has gone. It really probably ought to be up at the same BRs as their equivalents in the American tree. SU-152 is going from 4.7 to 4.3. I'm not surprised. I don't remember it being, with its reload being an eternity and its armor not really being that good. Not a surprise. ISU 152 going from 5.0 to 4.7. Same problems as the SU 152. Poor mobility. Not really effective armor. I can see it dropping. 15 centimeter SIG 33 BSFL. I'm not even going to try the German. A lot of fun to drive, but I'm not surprised at all to see it drop to 1.0. Conversely, the Panzer 2F goes from 1.3 to 1.7. Zero surprise. Having played a little bit of low-tier Sweden recently, these things are stupid effective. Stuart 1 goes from 1.3 to 1.7. Again, having played some low-tier Sweden recently, I'm not surprised in the slightest. Same thing with the M3 Stuart in the American tree. I see no reason not to see that as a totally expected change. The Panzerkampfwagen 3 PZ3E, Panzer 3E, is going from 1.0 to reserve. I am not surprised. I mean, honestly, it's not a surprise at all. AMX-50 Serbisei, and I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation, goes from 8.0 to 7.7. 120mm cannon, reasonable reload. I'm kind of surprised, but I'll bet you its armor is just not holding up against the 9.0s it's going up against. SU-100Y, going from 5.3 to 5.0. Ineffective armor, poor mobility, reload rate that requires a calendar. Again, no surprise seeing it go down. BMP-2M, going from 9.0 to 8.7. No armor, but the cannon's pretty surprisingly effective, and it's got ATGMs. Probably just getting its butt kicked by 10.0s on a regular basis, so it's going down a touch. Panzer 470A is going from 4.7 to 4.3. I'm not really surprised by that one. The armor does not seem to be that robust, so yeah, it's not a real surprise to me. T-72B 1989 goes from 9.7 to 10.0. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I'll bet you the Russians are kicking butt right now, so it might just be being pulled up by the whole lineup. And in the realm of I'm entirely unsurprised, the Caernarvon's going from 6.7 to 7.0. It's been really effective recently, and so that 6.7 lineup is getting up-tiered a little bit to see if they can bring it down a few pegs. Likewise, the Centurion Mark III is going from 6.7 to 7.0. The Sturv 81 and the Sturv 81 RB52 are both going from 6.7 to 7.0. Again, this whole lineup seems to be really effective at this point, especially considering the fact they're really good tanks. In the I can't believe it's not butter category, we have the Panzer 4G going from 4.0 to 3.7, and I am entirely shocked. That thing's been effective at 4.0 for so long. It almost deserves to go up another notch, but maybe things have changed with all the new countries and things. Similar to the Panzer 4H, has been at 4.3 for an eternity and is finally dropping to 4.0. It's got a... let me see, is this what I'm thinking of? 4H is just a slightly less... the extra armor on the 4H does not actually save you anything in most cases. So I'd say that 4.3 to 4.0 is probably not a surprise. And last but not least, in the original Mean Machines category, we have the Calliope, which is going from 4.3 to 4.0. It's a 75mm Sherman with a bunch of rockets you can barely aim. And a profile that's taller than Abraham Lincoln. I'm not that surprised. I mean, honestly, I'm just not that surprised. 4.3 to 4.0 makes a lot of sense, and it puts it in line with other Shermans in the same BR bracket. And that's it for ground vehicles. Let's go take a look at naval. And I would stare at my naval, but I don't think that'll get you information any faster. The Clemsons are going from 3.7 to 3.3. Looks like all three of them. Again, I'm not terribly surprised. The lower tier Americans seem to have really been outdone by the high fire rate rotary cannon carrying high speed ships that have been going around. The Frunz is going from 3.7 to 3.3. Can't speak to it, I've never played it. The Mutsaki is going from 3.7 to 3.3. My gut feel is that destroyers have been so badly outclassed that they're having to bring it down to where they don't necessarily face cruisers so regularly, because a lot of these are destroyers dropping to more cruiser ranks. On the other hand, then we look at some of the other options. For instance, the Porter is going from 4.7 to 5.0. The Summers is going from 4.7 to 5.0. And these are probably, maybe they're punching above their weight class. I don't know. Maybe we need to get some naval guys in here to actually give us some reviews on that. The Dardo is going from 4.0 to 3.7. Again, following that trend of destroyers seeming to drop quite a bit. The G-Class H-89 is going from 4.0 to 3.7. PR-56 Spoke is going from 4.7 to 5.0. It seems like they're trying to create a break between more effective destroyers and less effective destroyers, and then split them from the cruiser classes. But that's just my, best guess. Turbine's going from 3.7 to 3.3. The HMS Tiger is going from 5.7 to 5.3. I suspect it's just a touch undergunned. The Leipzig is going from 5.7 to 5.3. I think that's okay. They seem to have kind of made it so they can move some of the cruisers around and still keep some of the less effective destroyers out of that range. I don't know. We'll have to see if we can. I've not really identified a good understanding of what's going on with these. Fairmile's going from 1.3 to 1.0. Not really surprised for something with only a 3-pounder and some Lewis guns. The G5 TKA 106 is going from 1.3 to 1.7. The Sokutai goes from, on 1927 model, goes from 1.7 to 1.3. The Isles class goes from 2.0 to 1.7. I'm not sure why it says 165-foot PC-466 Carmi there, but it says PC-461 class on the left there, but it is what it is. Goes from 2.0 to 1.7, as does the PC-451, also going from 2.0 to 1.7. The British Flower class goes from 2.3 to 2.0. The MPK-163 also goes from 2.3 to 2.0. The MBK-161 1943 goes from 3.0 to 3.3. And the 1944 model goes from 3.3 to 3.7. The Type M 1943 goes from 3.3 to 3.0. The Asheville goes from 3.7 to 3.3. The PR-123K A11 goes from 2.0 to 2.3. And the 123 BIS goes from 2.0 to 2.3, as does the 123K Komsomolets. The BMO goes from 2.7 to 3.0. The Higgins 78-foot PT-71 goes from 1.7 to 2.0. I'm kind of surprised there. Sayada P-494 goes from 4.3 to 4.7. PR-159 goes from 4.0 to 4.3. The Frigate PR-35 goes from 4.0 to 4.3 as well. The Chikugo goes from 3.3 to 3.7, as does the Ikazuchi. And finally, the 89-foot PT-810 goes from 3.7 to 3.3. And that is all the BR changes that are anticipated coming up this month. So keep an eye out for those changes, and we'll see you on the battlefields, the waves, and everywhere else in War Thunder.